It's the ancient equivalent of a hostile takeover. In the royal palace of Ithaca, over 100 ambitious men have occupied the halls, eating through the kingdom's resources and demanding that Queen Penelope choose one of them as her new husband. Facing an impossible numbers disadvantage, she proposes a perfectly reasonable delay. She will pick a suitor only after she finishes weaving a grand burial garment for her father-in-law. Every day, she sits in public and works on the loom. But every night, she secretly undoes all of her progress. This precise, invisible sabotage keeps the suitors at bay for 3 full years. While the men wait for her to break, Penelope is holding off an invading army using nothing but psychological endurance. She has maintained the defense of her home for years without drawing a single blade. Meanwhile, miles across the ocean on the shores of Ogygia, the king of Ithaca is dealing with his own captivity. Odysseus is trapped, held hostage by the goddess Calypso. The man renowned for engineering the Trojan horse, the greatest tactical mind in the Greek army, now spends his days stripped of his power, weeping on the shoreline for the family he left behind. To understand how this broken exile finally reclaims his kingdom, we must analyze the brutal, 10-year-long gauntlet of survival that cost him his fleet and his crew and his reputation. After finally escaping Ogygia, Odysseus washes up among the Phaeacians and begins to recount the catastrophic journey that led him there. Early in his voyage, he and his crew find themselves trapped inside a cave by a massive cyclops named Polyphemus. Brute strength is useless here. If they kill the giant in his sleep, they will be forever sealed inside by the colossal boulder blocking the entrance. Outmatched physically, Odysseus relies on a calculated pivot. He offers the monster a bowl of incredibly strong wine. Once Polyphemus falls into a drunken stupor, the crew sharpens a wooden stake and blinds him, neutralizing his physical advantage. Odysseus had already introduced himself to the giant as nobody. When the blinded monster screams for help from his fellow Cyclopes outside, he shouts, "Nobody is killing me." Confused, the others simply walk away. To finally escape, the crew ties themselves to the bellies of the giant's sheep. When morning comes, Polyphemus feels the animals' tops to let them graze, while the men slip past his hands undetected beneath his flock. Calculated intellect conquered impossible odds, but a single lapse in discipline proved costly. Odysseus's prideful revelation of his true name upon escape allowed Polyphemus to call down a devastating curse from his father, Poseidon. As the journey continues, the ocean throws increasingly complex navigational traps at the remaining ships. First are the sirens, creatures whose bewitching song forces sailors to steer themselves to their deaths. Survival requires strict psychological discipline. Odysseus orders his men to plug their ears with beeswax so they can keep rowing in silence, while he is bound to the ship's mast to endure the song without being able to act on it. Soon after, they hit an insurmountable geographical bottleneck, a narrow strait sandwiched between 2 lethal threats. This map illustrates the fatal geometry of the pass. On the left is Charybdis, a whirlpool that will swallow the entire ship. On the right is Scylla, a 6-headed beast. There is no middle path. Odysseus steers the vessel toward the cliff, deliberately sacrificing 6 of his own men to the beast to save the larger collective from total destruction. The final break in the chain of command happens when the starving crew defies orders and slaughters the sacred cattle of the sun god Helios. In retribution, Zeus strikes their ship with a thunderbolt, drowning the crew and obliterating it. Surviving the ancient world's deadliest gauntlet took a horrific toll. Odysseus washes up on Ogygia as a solitary survivor, entirely stripped of his fleet, his friends, and his glory. After 20 years, Odysseus finally sets foot on the shores of Ithaca. But walking into the palace as a recognized king against 100 armed men is a death sentence. Aided by the goddess Athena, he adopts the ultimate camouflage, disguising himself as an old, frail beggar. He turns his lost status into a way to slip past the guards and into the halls of power. Once inside, he quietly reunites with his son Telemachus. Together, they execute a crucial preparation phase, moving through the Great Hall and silently removing every weapon while the suitors are distracted. He treats his own living room with the exact same tactical mindset he used at Troy. The palace is an occupied fortress, and he intends to breach it from the inside through absolute deception. Backed into a corner, Penelope issues one final tactical challenge to her unwanted guests. She announces she will marry the man who can string her husband's rigid hunting bow and fire an arrow through a row of 12 axe heads. One by one, the suitors try and fail to even bend the wood. Then the old beggar steps forward. He effortlessly strings the weapon, executes the perfect shot, and finally reveals his true identity. The suitors reach for their swords, but the walls are empty. Unarmed and trapped, the occupiers are systematically eliminated by the king and his son in a ruthless, calculated purge. The kingdom was reclaimed through the parallel, shared cunning of a husband and wife who outthought their enemies. To see more breakdowns of legendary tactics and hidden histories, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Mythic Keep.